mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive, factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. However, today is slightly different, but we will get into that in a second. I am your master of ceremonies, Sam, and I am joined as always by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
Hi. Oh, that's a big wave. Look, big waves. So yes, today is slightly different. I loved how you put it on your post earlier. It's a episode within an episode.
It's Inception episode.
Yeah.
Inception episode. Incepisode.
Yeah, I like that. It's an Incepisode. And it's basically an episode within an episode. We're doing an off spin. So this week is not a monster. We're not focusing on a monster. We are doing the man behind the monster. Ooh. And that would be the great master himself, Tom Savini, who you can see very, very nicely placed behind Dan's head. Right there. So I'll get the disclaimer out the way with, and then we'll crack on with this week's episode. So, everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us in the comment section and we can have an open discussion. What we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism. Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. So, Thomas Vincent Savini, born November 3rd, 1946, is an American prosthetic makeup artist. He's known for his groundbreaking work in the world of monster makeup. He is a makeup artist, an actor, a stuntman, owns his own school, is a director. The man wears many hats, so come and join us for our first man behind the makeup with the wizard, Tom Savini. Da, da, da.
I feel like, yeah, I was going to say, it feels like there should be an evil laugh.
Like
Or
like some sort of Vincent Price laugh.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is actually going to be part one of two. So we are going to give you an introduction of what we know of Tom. We're going to talk to you about his movies, only leading up to, and this is just including his makeup work, not his acting work, leading up to 1980. Yes. And then part two, we will start again afterwards. Yeah?
Talk about all the fun stuffs.
Yeah. So this is what you need to know in order to know the fun stuff.
Some of this is kind of fun. It depends how your morbid sensibilities are with some of the facts, but still.
That is true. So we'll talk about the man himself. If nobody knows him, he is literally what I said in the intro: actor, stuntman, makeup artist, director.
Vietnam veteran.
Yeah, let's just add that. Yes, he most certainly is. So yes, he's a man of many, many talents, who I found out today was actually the love affair of makeup started at the young age of 12. And who was his influence?
The egged eyeball man himself.
Yep, absolutely. The man we've covered before and we have mass respect for, Lon Chaney.
He even named his child Lon.
His child then named his child Chaney.
I see what they did there.
I thought that was genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, so heavily influenced by Lon Chaney and Universal Monsters as a whole. But Lon was there because of the makeup. That's where the love affair started. which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, he went to what they used to have, like, they used to pay like a quarter to go to the cinema all day. And he went there one day and they had like the cartoons in the morning. Yeah.
And
then
Man of a Thousand Faces.
And there was something else on that day, but he remembers watching A Man of a Thousand Faces and walking out of there thinking, I can do that. I want to do that. I need to do that. You know?
It wasn't a case of I want to do that. It's like, no, I can do that. And I'm gonna do that.
And that's what I want to do. And I don't care how I get the money to do it, but I'm gonna do it. But
it was stealing his mother's bloody makeup. Poor woman, I'd be furious.
He tried because he was the youngest of 5 or 6, I want to say. I think it was 5. He had 3 older brothers and an older sister, and he was the youngest by 13 years to his sister. So there was a big age gap in that respect. One of his brothers was a world-class tattooist. One of his brothers was a bodybuilder. Another one of his brothers, he doesn't really talk about very much. But his sister, he holds in highest regard because he said that she was the one who brought him up like a mother. She was the one who babysit him. She was the one who took him to the cinema. She was the one who introduced him.
You find that in that like age genre, like, because what, he's 75 now?
I think he's around that now, yeah.
Yeah. So you do find that in like age genre, like parents, like, they fucking had to work. So older siblings became kind of their responsibility.
But at 12, 13, he was feral. Feral little Italian child, go out on the streets, you know, with all the other little Italian children down the park. Off you trot.
Down the park.
Well, there was apparently right near his school. He used to go to like what we would call I don't know what it's called in today's terms, but in my terms, it was like an infants junior school kind of thing.
Primary school.
That's the one. It was infants and juniors because I'm old. But yeah, it was. But yeah, we had his school was called the Immaculate Conception.
Wow.
Yeah, and his parents never sent any of his brothers or sisters to this Roman Catholic school, even though they're heavy Italian proper. Like, he said he didn't speak English for what he thinks was about the first 7 or 8 years of his life. He only spoke Italian.
Wow.
But he had to learn English to go to school. So he was brought up obviously in the household and they were all talking Italian all the time, even though they were living in Pittsburgh. He just always spoke Italian. And his school was around the corner and there was a big field massive playing field across the road. So he was in quite a nice little catchment area for like, he could go in the park and be a normal kid and play in the park, or he could go to the ice cream store around the corner, or, you know, and at the age of 10 or 11 they were just allowed out on their charge. As long as they came back when it got dark, it didn't matter, you know.
But that's how I grew up.
Same.
Like, I lived on a block that literally just goes like that, and within that block I have grandparents and auntie and my mum and dad, like that. They had the block covered. As long as I came in when I was meant to, all was good. We never moved from that street.
Same as Tom Savini. He still lives in the same house today as the house his parents bought when he first was born. So.
I knew he lived in the same street. I genuinely didn't know it was that. But you know what his house is called?
Go on.
Terramania.
Yeah. Because he had he did a haunted house thing for about 8 years that he also called Terramania. That was like like a fright house that you could walk around and stuff like that, which I found quite interesting. Never knew about that.
Yeah. If you want to see Tom Savini's house, and I highly recommend you want to see Tom Savini's house, there is an amazing YouTube couple called the Grim Life Collective.
Yeah.
I've followed them for years. They're a lovely couple, very respectable. The videos
Jess
that they do.
I think
Jess and Michael, yeah. Incredibly respectful of subject matters that they do, and like famous graves that they go to. Some of them are quite notorious ones. And they got the opportunity to go to Tom Savini's school. That's what they thought they were doing. And he was like, oh, just come to my house. It's just down there. And yeah, they got to do a whole tour, interview him in his home. That man, he is not shy. He will show you everything.
Yes.
And it is, honestly, it is a collector's dream. The worst part about Tom Savini is if he doesn't have it, he will just simply make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that.
Which then leads us to a marvellous segue of a video that we have to show you that kind of, it fits, but it was done around, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. I tend to, every year, at the end of every year, to say thank you to everybody on the page for following and, just sticking with us. I tend to get like someone, I've had Doug Jones, I've had
Candyman.
Yeah, Tony Todd, I've had Bill Mosley and Tom Savini do videos. Now the cameo videos, I'm not even pretending that I'm ringing them up saying, hello, do me a favour.
Yeah.
I paid for it. I'm not friends with these people.
Damn it, you could have gotten away with that one.
I'm not having someone call me out on that when the big words of cameo is down the bottom of the bloody video. But yeah. But I like to say thank you. And the best way I know how is to do something that I know a lot of people love, which is here's something. Now, think this video was about 50-60 quid, I think. And because it was mid-pandemic, I don't think he had much to do. And it was one of those things where he was working on his own stuff. So it was way more than I'd actually bargained for, as you'll see. I honestly thought it would just be a little interview, not interview, but him saying, thank you everybody for following. And that was it. But you'll see in the video what you get for your money with Tom Savini, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Here we go.
Hi, Danielle. It's Tom Savini. And allow me to thank how many people have followed Bleeding Marvelous by filling up their eyeballs with some horror stuff. I'm here in my backyard with some of my friends. Well, the creature, he's back there all the time. Okay, we got to walk through some snow here. We're going to go through my gym first. But there's monsters in the gym, at least aliens. There's one over there. That's his brother. Okay, in my studio, I spent most of the lockdown back here with my friends. Oh, here's Fluffy that I sculpted a few years ago. And I'm 74. I've been collecting for a long, long time. Oh, I created a Vincent Price House of Wax head. I've never seen anybody do one, but I did one because I found this fabulous hat. And I got to refurbish my Dr. Tongue and my gorilla. He's part of a gorilla suit. I added more hair to him. And, somebody wears this. But let me turn the remote control on. Oh, okay. I'm able to make his mouth open and close. And his eyes blink and look around. Okay, let me unplug him. I don't want to wear out the battery. Anyway, so I'm back here with all my friends. And, if you've seen Dusk Till Dawn, this is my head that George Clooney rips off. And then Juliette Lewis shoots me in the eyeball with an arrow. That's Reagan. Her head spins, but she's not plugged in right now. Sometimes I collect my action figures life-size, like the alien over here, and the Predator. That's the entrance to the garage. You can see it's surrounded by famous monsters. Here's some more of the collection. And I even have bodies on the ceiling. There's Wilson. This guy here is from Day of the Dead. This is Greg Nicotero after they skinned him in Disney's Gross Anatomy. Here's some beforehand. Okay, what do I know about you? Danielle is a girl. Dan, thanks for coming and booking this on Cameo. And again, this little tour was a thank you to everyone that has followed Bleeding Marvelous, and they hope to see you at a convention next year. If I see you at a convention next year, remind me that we did this. Okay?
So that was it. That's quite a collection.
quite
sure.
a collection. His garden alone, the creature.
I think that's the one that's now in the school, because if you watch Jess and Mike's video, they go past a creature in one of the cabinets when he's walking through the halls, and I was like,
that one, the one he has in his garden, is only there was only a couple made of that one. Michelin Pitt, who owns is it Vixen Voodoo? Oh my god, she has an amazing clothing line. It's vintage. It's like vintage with horror twists in it.
yes, I know who you mean now.
Michelin Pitt, she has one. Because if you want to go and check her YouTube channel out, you can see her unboxing it, and holy fucking shit.
I would have had a heart attack and died if someone bought me that and I was unboxing it and then I put it in the corner of my house.
It's just a crate, like a huge crate. It's madness. But yeah, wow.
I mean, the fact that you see Fluffy there, and one thing that he does kind of allude to is Greg Nicotero pinned to the ceiling. Yes. in my little video, and they show Greg in pieces, as in like is I think like mid autopsy, and the other one was him completely skinned, I think. But they were attached to a ceiling. But I never realized until doing the research is how long Tom and Greg have been
friends,
like best of buds, because I've met Greg on a few occasions, and not because I paid to meet him, because he came up to the stall, because he used to do Walker Stalker convention quite a lot. And we were always there, and you could tell he hates conventions. He's like a grumpy old guy that you don't mind him being grumpy, if you get what I mean. So,
absolutely, I can imagine that from him.
He came up to the stall, and I think we were one of the very few horror stalls there. Everybody else was just selling pure Walking Dead at the time. We did have some, don't get me wrong, but we were selling all other horror stuff. And he came along and he was like, I did the makeup for that, I did the makeup for that, I did the makeup for that. And I was standing there going, I know, and you're just like, And he stood and he had a massive chat with us once, and then the next year he came back and he went, hi guys, and then he had another chat with us, and he remembers our friends Leslie and Dave, and they were there with us once. He came over and had another chat with them, and he is one of the most personable people. But you can tell, like, I remember saying something along the lines of, you look tired. He went, I just don't want to be here. I was like, I can get that. I get that, Greg. It's fine.
It was one of the conventions I always wanted to go to, and it was like it was in the proper hype days of Walking Dead, and they don't do it anymore, do they?
No, he shafted. Long story. I'm going to put the allegedly in there, but the owner shafted a lot of people out of a lot of money, and he got too big too quickly, and he owes lots of money to a lot of people internationally.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You're not working in the convention scene again, really?
No, but he's doing GoFundMes because he adopts children now from other countries, and needs to find homes. Oh, honest, it's a whole thing. All you have to do is Google, the owner Stalker convention, and it will bring you up news articles left, right, and centre.
Yeah,
it was a lot. Yeah, so
no, he mentions Greg Nicotero in the video he did for Jess and Michael, because he goes, it's so casual, like. It's so casual the way he's like, oh yes, and Greg Nicotero is just, he comes in and he does some classes, and oh yes, and we've had Doug Bradley come before, and he's just like, he's so fucking blasé about everything.
But it's his love for Dick Smith and George Romero.
Dick Smith.
When you see him talking about them,
it's almost like he couldn't. He went and there's George.
Yeah.
And I know that's not a passage like, oh, that's just George. Like, that's I can't do this right now. That's George.
Well, he owes George, and he says in his autobiography how much he owes George, because he pestered George for years to get on the first film, to get on Dawn of the Dead, or Day of the Dead the first one, Night of the Living Dead. There's so many. I forget which don't come for me. I forget which one's in which order.
Night of the Living Dead.
On top of that, it's 9:10 at night when we're recording this. Leave me alone. My brain is full of cotton wool. Yeah, he pestered him to get onto that film, and he said he had to drop out because his wife was pregnant and they needed money. So he decided to join the army.
He got drafted.
And then he got drafted because he thought he was going to be doing 6 months in an army camp in America. And then he thought he'd drop out or get out. He just needed enough money to provide for his wife and his child at the time. And then he got drafted to Vietnam for an entire year.
Yes.
And he said,
it was photography he did.
Yes. So he ended up being classed as like the version of MI5, like he was Secret Service when he went over. He thought it was going to be all like taking photos of tanks driving past and lovely,
like a war correspondent, like looking for, because if you look at war correspondents from World War II, one of my favorites, Vivian Leigh. Oh my God, please don't attack me, Michaela, if I got that wrong. I have seen this woman's work in real life. She's very famous for sitting in Hitler's bathtub naked.
I know what you mean. I know the story, but I don't know her name. Yeah.
I think that won her like a really big prize, but that's what she used to do. She used to do like photography, like scenery.
Yeah.
That's not what he did.
No, the poor sod ended up being tasked to photo the unalived bodies of the Viet Cong. And how they died and the circumstances leading up to it. Not necessarily like a crime scene tech, but someone in the respective that could document the aftermath of set twos that they had whilst they were in Vietnam. And
but this is it. I was reading earlier and I want to say I've heard it, I've read it, because I have actually read the Starting Point Use autobiography, as I was telling you earlier in the week. I do own it, but my Kindle is broken, so I can't actually get to it. But it's where he learned anatomy.
Yeah.
It's it's crazy, but the reason he is as good as he is because of that experience he had, and that really helped with his PTSD when he came home. Like, he put his worst fears into work.
Yeah. I've skipped forwarded a bit. Forwarded? That's not even a word. I've skipped forward a bit there. But yeah, when he was a lot younger, I think he said he was about 14 or 15, he went to, because the cinema thing was a big thing for him. He loved going to the pictures and watching films. And there was a touring, like, acting troupe that came through. And one of them played the monster, one was like the Wolfman, another one was the creature, and they dressed themselves up, and they'd pick a kid or a person out of the audience every night to become Dracula, and they'd whisk him out, do his makeup, put him in a cape, and then send him out for the show. And he really wanted to be picked, so he went every night until they picked him. And when they finally picked him, the lady took him out of the audience and like showed him the makeup that they had, smothered him in white paint. He said, I've got my own fangs and I've got my own cape, because he brought them with him. And so she said, that's good, right, off you go. And then she set him in this little area and she said, right, you've got to jump out when this happens, and we want you to scare everybody. And he said he waited for the opportune moment, because he said he felt like a magician that day, because he understood then the art of distraction, because he was watching the audience watch the monster and the Wolfman. So he snuck out with the cape over his head, like being all dark in the corner, and then just went, rah, and he scared the shit out of all the kids in the audience, to the extent that they asked him to come back and be part of the troupe until they moved on to their another destination. But at that point, they had a hearse they used to drive around in, this troupe as well. And then you're looking at, this is the 50s. Right, so it's now people would go, that's them. Back then it would be like, bloody hell,
go away,
So, and he said he loved every second of it, and he learned so much from the guys that were in the troops, should I say, to the extent that the guy who was the ringmaster storyteller kind of guy, vouched for him and got him a full membership to the Magic Castle in LA. So Tom Savini is a full member of the Magic Castle now.
There's not very many still alive who are there. I know that's probably a big lie. Neil Patrick Harris is part of, it's like a big circly thing, isn't it?
Yeah, the building is just off the back of Groman's Chinese Theatre on, you've got Hollywood Boulevard, and the road behind it, you've got the Magic Castle in the back, and it looks like a set. It just looks like someone's put up some boards to make it look like a castle, but it actually is a castle, and it's got all like rooms in it where you can get lost, and someone died in there, didn't they? Got stuck in the walls, and they found him like a long time later. Whether that's true or not, or that's one of those,
maybe just be urban myth. But it does go to explain like that story. He's his experience in Vietnam. It explains everything when the makeup starts to kick off. But there was one story he told Jess and Michael that I just absolutely loved, and it was the duck story. The duck story. So it was like one night friendly fire went off when it wasn't meant to. I could be completely butchering this story.
Something tripped one of the mines and set up a flare. Yeah. And
then it just started fire everywhere. Like everyone started shooting everywhere. And apparently you weren't meant to do that.
You had to ring.
Yeah. And he got called into the higher ups to answer as to why it happened. And he had to explain that it was a duck that set off this trap that started this fire, like firing of guns, which wasn't meant to happen. He got pulled into some form of duty the next night, but on that night where he would have been, got attacked, and people who he was with got killed.
Yeah.
If he'd had been there, he would have been one of them. So he always classes that a duck saved his life, and he's never eaten duck since.
Yeah. I thought when I read that, I was like, well, I completely get where you're coming from there. I think, from the way you described it in his autobiography, it's pretty much bang on, but he just set the scene, and it was like really horrific sounding the way he said it in the book. And it was like the Viet Cong used to sneak in and turn the claymores around so that if they tripped them, they would hit the cabins they were in. So what they started to do was to paint glow-in-the-dark paint on the back of the claymores, so they knew if it was shining towards them, it was facing the right way.
Right.
And he was saying that these little cabin things they were in, 2 would stay awake and they were down in the pit, and 2 would sleep up in on the second floor, which sounds bizarre way around for me, but that's what he said. And he was saying that this setup was standard setup, and there would be like within sort of 100 meters, there'd be one every 100 meters or so down the line. And if they needed to fire their gun, they had to ring the main guy who was in one of these things. Then he had to ring back into the compound. Then the guy had to come out and say, yeah, all right, then you can shoot. Well, by the time they've done that, they'd all be dead anyway. So, I mean, Jesus Christ, what was that game you used to play as a kid? Like telephone, was it, or something like that, where you'd ring and just by the time it got there, like I said, everybody would have been bloody dead. So it's a good job it was only a duck.
Sorry, I just read one of my notes, and it was something you said literally word for word earlier, and it took us back. I was like, Dan's just said that.
What did I say? What have I done?
It was about Dick Smith.
Oh, right. How he loves them so much. Yeah.
How he loves them, yes. But the duck story really, like, it's so, like, it's nothing. It's a nothing, like obviously it's very important to him.
Yeah.
But to do with, like, if you want to know about his work, you're not going to learn it from that duck story. But it just goes to show you the type of person he is.
It like, really does.
He's so, I can't, like, explain it enough. When you watch Michael and Jess's, I will link it down below as well. I will make sure it's there because it deserves to be watched. It is a fantastic video of just pure, like, them are in awe because they can't believe this is actually, like, going on. They just thought they were going to a school. Yeah. Then they're standing in front of his house with these cats and like, He can't even, when he's talking about these cats, he can't even just say, oh, this is Max and I can't remember what the other one's called. He can't just say their names. He has to tell them, yeah, these were kittens that were abandoned and I took them in. They were like literally fetuses. They were like days old and that. And then it's like, he just like, but he's just so, you don't care because he's so lovely. And his voice is like, you could just sit there and like, oh yeah, and next.
Well, there's this story in his autobiography that makes me laugh, and it says the whole chapter's called "Google Says I Am a Dick," and that's the name of the chapter. And basically, he goes on about how he was at a convention once, and he'd been signing, and the guy that was with him, either his promoter, his manager, somebody was with him, and he was on the phone behind him. And he was talking to some other guy on the phone, and he kept saying to Tom, do you want to talk to him? Do you want to talk to him? Now, he was in the middle of signing a photo for a lady. And as he said, he was signing this photo, he said to the guy behind him, I don't want to talk. And left it at that. And the lady thought he was talking to her. So she threw the photo back in his face and then started a blog and a podcast about how much of a dick Tom Savini is in real life. And he was it was just cross wires. He said, I tried to find her. He said, I walked around that convention centre afterwards trying to find the woman to apologise and give her the photo and say it wasn't what you heard. And
wow, what a bitch.
I mean, to go
don't
full
you
on,
dare ruin Tom.
But to go full on and start a full podcast on how much of a dick he is, that's some dedication, you know.
It's so, like episode 1, Tom Savini's a dick. Episode 2, he's still a dick. Episode 3, things haven't changed.
No. And I haven't met him since, and he's still a dick.
I only know snippets of him leading up to, and I do know that I have got a list of his films he did makeup wise before the big one.
Yeah.
So, and the first one was depends where you are in the world, but Dead of Night or Death Dream.
Yeah,
that was the first
Death Dream's the way I know it. Yeah.
When you look at the film, now it's very hard to find. It's very hard to find information on makeup artists in films. If you type, if you type in like Dead of Night makeup, you're just going to get Tom Savini did it. That's what you're going to get. You're not going to get any breakdown of Tom Savini did this, did that. This is his process. Da, da, da. So it's, unless you are watching, as I have learned today, a making of, you're not going to find a great bit of detail out of it. So you really got to look at the film yourself to think, this is what could have possibly been done.
Well, in saying that, I was listening to a podcast on the way home, The Thing with Two Heads, which is Sean Clark. And they had Tom on and they were interviewing Tom. And he was basically saying something similar, like how he, as Jess and Mike allude to in the video, he's got videotapes from everything he's ever done.
Yeah.
He will video all the backstage processes, how he sets the makeup up, like hijinks behind any of the gags that he sets up with the blood squibs and all that. So he knows, like, everything is documented. And he was talking about it again, and he was like, I'm sure I gave a load of footage to one of the guys for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. He said, I gave him a load of backstage footage for that with Bill in it and everything. He said, so, and then Sean was like, hang on a minute, I've got the new release. He trundled off. You don't, obviously you hear it, you don't see it. And Sean gets the new release DVD and he brings it back and he's like, there's no specials on here, Tom. It is literally just the movie. And he's like, but I gave him all my stuff. I don't know why it's not on that. So he's got endless amount of footage that you could literally, anybody, like, I'm not just talking about his school patron, like the kids that go to his school, but that would be worth its weight in gold, getting that stuff put onto a DVD.
So he has them on videos and he shows you the box of videos, but he does say, I've converted all of these. They're on a computer. They are the safe, basically. But if we can just talk about his school for a second, holy fucking shit, the achievements that have come out of that school is just absolutely ridiculous. These people go into one of you are getting fucking taught by the master. There's no other way to look at it. Like, I love Rick Baker, Venial, for different, like, Rick Baker for obviously different reasons to Venial. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love them people, them artists, but him, he fucking invented half the shit. And you've got his teams who were going on, obviously some of them have gone on to Face Off, which is the make-up competition. But then you've got the Avengers. You've got Deadpool. You've got the list literally like goes on and on. That is literally the 2 pictures I could pick out of the images I saw today of the achievements of his school was the Avengers, because the Avengers was the big one. It was Infinity War.
I've got a list here. Guardians of the Galaxy, Shape of Water, Walking Dead, obviously because of the great connection, I imagine. Westworld, the TV series, Stranger Things, Z Nation, Mindhunter. Now that in itself is a feat of absolute genius to anybody that's seen Mindhunter, and you can see how they turned those people into those serial killers.
Edmund Kemper, the guy who played him,
Son of Sam.
Oh, David
Charlie
Berkowitz.
Manson. But looking at the guys that played them to how they look, how well they did it.
Berkowitz never stood out for us, only because I kind of stand the fucker in like the actual person. Charlie was impressive. It was Edmund Kemper. That was the one that was eerily, like, when I go on deep dives on true crime, Edmund Kemper is up there with the man is so fucking fascinating. Like, ridiculous. Like, he's too fucking intelligent for this world. Like,
but he was the guy from the Umbrella Academy that played him, wasn't he?
Yes, it was. And holy shit, did the number that they did on him to get him to look, to get the look has to come for the characteristics to follow. It has to. And if you go back and watch that, and then watch the interview with Edmund Kemper, because that motherfucker liked to talk. Like, he would,
hence why he does audiobooks.
Yes, because he loves to talk. He's very honest. That's part of his problem. He doesn't fit into a stereotypical serial killer because he's actually not ashamed of what he did. He's always said that if he got released, he'd do it again. Like, there's no qualms about it. He is intentionally evil.
But he knows he's in the best place for himself, because he knows that if he was to go out,
he's had parole board meetings where he's went, I'm not going and I'm not getting out either. Like, he's already said, put us to death. There's honestly no point in, like, you know, dragging it on. Just do it. Like, I will, if I got out, I'll do it again. It's as simple as that. And I know
makeup work on that TV show
was just perfection. I didn't see that one come up, but the Westworld one I did. I remember hearing that one. Star Trek,
like you say, the X-Men movies they've done as well.
Infinity War won awards.
Endgame, I think it was Endgame they did. But they could have done Infinity as well.
No, it might have been Endgame. I just saw Avengers and a poster pop up.
And then I think for some reason, and don't ask me why, well, I'm guessing WWE WrestleMania has been brought up.
It's probably got something to do with the Triple H.
Yeah. Now, obviously, a lot of people know, or they don't know, Tom has done a lot of mask work. And I'm not talking about like full prosthetic masks or latex masks. I'm talking about Corey Taylor's from Slipknot's mask.
the most, is it the most recent one?
I think it's either the one that's just gone, the most recent, or the one that's just gone. I can't remember. I think it's this one.
I don't know what he's wearing right now, but I do know when they released the last album, it's kind of like a white pulled back face. That's Savini's. Yeah.
And then he released a load of COVID friendly masks over lockdown that he would sign, and I can't remember what character they were based on, whether it was either the Black Phone or it was because he did the mask for that as well.
Oh my god, I did not know that. You just made me fall in love with that film even more.
Yeah, he did. And that was the thing. I mean, obviously I don't want to get into it too much because we'll cover that later, but Ethan Hawke was absolutely in awe because you could separate the two halves. So he didn't realise it was something. He thought he was going to have a full-on mask, but then when he was told he'd have to emote, because he could have either half.
Right,
On.
people. Scrap
Yeah.
that from your memory bank because that will come up in part 2.
Don't worry, I've got a lot more where that came from. But,
wow.
Yeah, he does have a very, like, he's also responsible for Kane Hodder's mask in Jason X.
No, don't, because there's nothing wrong with that mask. And we will get into that later on.
We also will, but my point is, like, I'm trying to show people he's not just prosthetics. He does make, like, he does do mask work and he does do full latex mask work. But some of Nora, who went to his school that actually won Face Off one season, I don't know which season it was, she was at Spooky Empire in 2018, which is the one time we went over to America, to Orlando, to Spooky Empire, and she made up a guy, the guy who played Dr. Satan from House of a Thousand Corpses. She made him up again for the photo shoots. So Rob had a photo with Dr. Satan made up by Nora from that one Face Off.
That is fucking incredible.
And it was because I'd not long watched that season, and I remember because Rob's he was never really into watching it. I just absolutely love it. I will sit there and watch it on repeat. I don't care.
I was obsessed, like ridiculously obsessed. And it was the first season. Do you remember Gage?
Yeah, I remember most of them. Like Roy was one of my favourites.
Well, Gage Munster went on. He is huge. He is massive in the world of makeup right now. And my God, that he deserves all of it. But you know how I know him? LA Inc. He went on the Kat Von D show in LA Inc. and he got an Elvira tattoo. And the second I clocked him on Face Off, that was it. I was like, and when Joan Rivers died, he put a post up and I was like, I was 2 days away from seeing her at my local theatre and she has passed. Like, I'm devastated. I'm never good. Like, we waited 2 years for these tickets to go and see Joan Rivers and she passed away 2 days before we were meant to see her. And oh, it was devastating. He sent me a private message to pass on his condolences. Like, he's so lovely, and I've been such a huge supporter of his. Like, not just because of that message, but because the makeup he does. He's into all the big Hollywood movies now.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to watch, and I think if you've never seen the TV show, when we talk about Face Off, we're not talking about Nicolas Cage and John Travolta.
And literally taking the face off.
And there's no face off. We're not doing that. No, this is a special effects makeup competition in the style of X Factor style. You know, where
it's the basic concept of RuPaul's Drag Race, America's Next Top Model, and
everything you can think
Project
of
Runway.
That is horrific about reality television.
But it's prosthetic makeup,
which is the reason why I watch it, because I hate those kind of TV shows, and I can guarantee you behind the scenes it's just as bullshit as Miami Inc. as all of the horrific reality competitions.
That's kind of like reality TV based. Like, you know, the producers are in their ear going, psst, got some drama.
Ink Master, that's another one.
Fuck yeah.
I got very obsessed with that.
Me too.
And I've got very close to getting tattooed by Kelly Doty on many, many of occasions. And she is coming to the UK at some point, I think.
But you're going to her.
But her boyfriend lives in Edinburgh.
What?
So Kelly and Paul, he's one of you lot. He's one of you Northerners, Paul.
Oh, fuck me. I did not know that. I did not know that. Or did I know that? No, I didn't.
His name's Paul Vander Johnson. He actually tattoos. He's done a couple of tattoos.
Fucking hell, do you know how I know that? Because Rob told us.
Yeah. So, him and Kelly.
Rob told us at Newcastle when I saw you there.
I'm very tempted to go get tattooed by Kelly. It's been one of those like moments where we were in Salem. We were in Salem, and we were supposed to go out for dinner with her and Paul, and then she wasn't well because she was. Long story short, she was going through she was having an operation. And if you see her now, she looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah, but she always looked fantastic.
She always did, though.
Always. She's amazing.
But I think a lot of it was through the trope of when she was on Angels, there was a lot of pressure on her to look like Ryan, to look like Nikki.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that I don't know. I think just she stood out so much more than them two, and it had fuck all to do with looks. Her personality is just it matches my level, so I get it.
Yeah, I mean, so I know I'm harping on about Ink Master, and it's got nothing to do
Who
with
cares?
Savini, but the gist of the matter is, it's along those kind of very
reality based,
formulaic, formulaed shows. You know, it's very much A B C D E, the end. However, you do actually have people on the panel that know what they're talking about, unlike some.
That is true. Apart from Totopoulos.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Patrick
he's only there.
Totopoulos.
That's nepotism, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Well, they weren't together originally, so I don't know about the nepotism part. However, he's a concept designer. He's not a makeup artist.
No, so I mean, he should have had more to do. They should have
broken it down.
Yeah.
From the concept art to the actual appliance. He shouldn't have been involved in the appliance.
He should have judged the concept art prior to it becoming the next step, which then I'm trying to think of his name. You know, in the later seasons, you had the bald guy with the glasses. Gone blank on his name. He could have then done the talking about all the prosthetic work, and then V could have talked about the makeup side of stuff. You know, they could have gone all the way through.
They could have done like a scoring point system kind of thing. They could have really broke it down and made the judging slightly different than what you've seen, where you've got what's his name? Hendrix. What's Hendrix first name? Tim Hendrix? No, he's a tattoo artist, man. Sam. I can't think of what his name is, but you know who I'm talking about.
Think so.
The main guy.
Oh, Glenn Hetrick.
Hetrick, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have hurt my brain.
Glenn Hetrick is something.
Glenn Hetrick might actually get brought up on the man behind the makeup at some point.
Yeah.
At some point.
He's something.
So he is, yeah.
I don't
Didn't
really
he
know
marry a contestant?
Oh, probably. He is responsible for a very a lot of things you see on the TV and in movies, but I felt like he was always trying to be controversial, like Simon Cowell, for the sake of the ratings, and it wasn't needed.
Towards the end, he wasn't like that, but it always felt like me at the beginning that V liked to point out that he rode her coattails quite a bit.
Go on, V. And if people don't know, V Neal was responsible for makeup such as the Penguin and Beetlejuice. To name but a few. Patrick Totopoulos was married to Mackenzie Westmore, who is the hostess of Face Off, who's also the daughter of Michael Westmore, who did all the makeup on Star Trek, and he is the nephew of Bud Westmore. I'm right there, aren't I? Yeah, so they're from a dynasty. She chose presenting over makeup.
I don't know if that was the right path for her, because she wasn't really that great. I'll fucking say it.
She needs LASIK eye surgery, because every time you see her, she's doing this. Like, she's reading the auto cue, and she's either not being honest and putting glasses on, because there's no shame in glasses. I wear them. But she always looks like she's really struggling to read the auto cue when you look at her. So if you go back and watch any episode, she's like this.
I just used to love how meek she was about, and yeah, he's my dad. He's a Westmore too. Like, man.
You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your dad, let's be honest.
Exactly. Nepotism.
But they've had guests like Rick Baker on it, and Tom has featured on it a couple of times on there. Because the majority of every season, you'll have about 3 or 4 people from his school that make the final cut.
You are making me want to watch this.
So yeah, oh god, that's
get me off this Grey's Anatomy train. Give me something else.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I get really lost with things to watch lately, and it's like I always go back to comfort stuff. And until we'd started researching for this one or talking about this one, I genuinely completely forgot about Face Off to go back and watch it. So yeah,
it makes us want to go, because it is. Do you know what the work? If they are being genuine about their time frame, the work that comes out of them is fucking unreal. It's absolutely crazy, and I always think, how dare you criticize what is in front of you? I mean, look, it's a fucking masterpiece. And then you get V Neil going.
Days.
You get V Neil. Well, the edges and then you're like, yeah, actually, I see where you're coming from there, V.
The big old chunky flap stuck to the
You
face.
honestly think you're like such a fucking professional by the end of an episode.
But yeah, Tom has featured on a couple of episodes and judged a couple of episodes, I think, but they're the ones that I think he's been on the episodes where people from his school aren't.
I would imagine. I'm not too sure because I didn't know up until I saw their video that his school had been like his students had been involved in the show.
Yeah.
So, but it would make sense because it's
I've
almost
always
like
wanted to go to that school. Always.
You know, I love the makeup. I love makeup. I love anything to do with makeup. No, even though today I have none on, and that is because hay fever kicked my ass today, and my eyes are so fucking sore. But I love makeup. I love beauty makeup to special effects makeup. I love the idea that something of powder and liquid can transform your face into something completely different. I think it's so fucking fascinating. But these fingers don't allow anything technical to take place. It's like the minute I get, like, let's take crochet, for example. I try to crochet. It doesn't work.
The brain to hand thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they just don't work. So, and I love the idea of thinking I want to do something in makeup because of my absolute love for it. But I know these are going to let me down.
See, I've been blessed, I suppose is the word, because I've never been an academic person. I've always been a hands-on arty-farty, like to do rather than learn. That's always.
Yeah, I can sing, and I did music. Like I played an instrument for like 7 years of my life. I've got graded in. I'm trying to like distract from the instrument part. I've got grades in music. I can sing. I can act.
I've always been around. Like my mum was an artist growing up.
My dad's an artist.
She had a full-time job, well, 2 or 3 full-time jobs, but she'd have an exhibition every now and again around the corner from our house, and people would buy her paintings. And so I was always around drawing. Like when I was little, she used to draw things and then get us to colour them in, and I've always been very much in that world. So I love painting, but I am a what you would call a copier. I can't make a character out of my brain and whop out, a brand new character.
Not a chance.
Give me a picture, I can copy that picture.
Can't even do that. My dad's an artist. He's never done anything serious with it. I mean, he used to draw my invitations. He used to do Alice in Wonderland invitation for us, or whatever I was into at the time. Like draw my birthday invitations out, and the pictures that pictures in the house were his. He's only just started going back to it recently because he hadn't done it for so many years. But when I was at school. And I was at school and doing art, he used to get so annoyed so quickly because of how bad I was that he would end up taking over and I would end up handing in what he'd done. And in the end, when it would come down to choosing subjects, I didn't choose art because I'm no fucking artist. And my teacher was like, but look at all this beautiful work. And I'm like, I can't bring my dad into an exam with me. And she looked at us and went, excuse me. And I was like, yes, that's my dad's work, not mine, and just walked out. My sister's she's not an artist, but she's an art curator.
Yeah, my mum was she went back to school in her early 30s and studied art. I don't know what accreditation it would have been in the late 80s, early 90s that she got a GCE, I think it would have been back then. But she went back and she did art, and she did sculpting and all that sort of stuff, and nudes and watercolor and oil and stuff. And then, not to be a copycat, I went back to school at 33. I did art and illustration and design.
Oh.
And it was about a year, I think a year and a half, maybe longer than that. And it ended up being illustration, and fashion and design. It was all sorts of things, like it was all that. But our final piece was all to do with concept designing of costumes and stuff.
Right.
So I got the first distinction I'd ever had in my entire life at the age of 33.
Amazing.
I got my City and Guilds in fashion illustration and design, and this is the most proud I've ever been of myself, because I was a coaster at school. I coasted very much in the middle. Like, my art teacher came up and she said, "What do you want for your GCSE?" I said, "Anything over a C." She went, "Okie dokes." And I got a C. You know, it was like, I could have aimed higher, but I just was always very much didn't want to get on the radar of anybody. Because
when I realised the course I was going to didn't need me to actually have a GCSE, I stopped giving a shit. Thank you, BTECs.
You see, I had to have it because I went into A-level music, A-level
I did that my second
performing
year.
arts.
Yeah,
I did all that stuff. So
I did it in the second year. So the first year was the BTEC to get the qualifications of the 4 C's and above to then move on to A-level. And I did so I did dance, drama, music, BTEC. Then I did A-level drama, A-level music. Even though, because of my grade 8, I technically didn't have to do it because it's already higher than an A-level. So I wasted a whole year doing that, and then I dropped out of college.
But had I have stuck like with my A-level performing arts, we started to go into prosthetic design and makeup design.
Right.
But we moved from London up to Peterborough. Well, a bit further up.
You're doing that like I would go London northeast, like.
Well, that is it's quite far. It's like
it's closer than me.
Hour and a half. But yeah, it's we moved mid-course, so I had to start over again when I got up here, and I went to college, so I had to do was it an FTPA or a BTEC, or it was something like that?
It'd probably be a BTEC. That's the only one I know.
Yeah, so that I had to ditch my A-levels because they didn't offer those courses, so I only got a year in both of them. But I was gutted because prosthetic makeup was such a thing for me until the college got invited to take part in a road traffic awareness campaign at one of the schools. So you think to yourself, oh God, what's this? Have I got to lay on the floor and cry? You know, you don't know what you're getting yourself into at that age. You like 18. At that point, I was a year older than everybody because obviously I was coming into the course a year older, and they put chicken bones in us, like, and built up like our skin and did broken arms, covered us in fake blood, and like and that was the art department. I was on the wrong course.
Yes.
I've never been a very outgoing person, so for me to have been on performing arts was a bit of a joke, really. I should have been on the art course, and to this day, that's why I went back at 33 and did it. So yeah, I really would love, because I know Stan Winston runs an online school that you can join. So it's always been something that I've toyed with the idea of doing, but time is not my friend.
Time, no. No, it's not. It's like trying to fit another thing in on top of another thing that we're already doing, on top of another thing. No.
And then that other thing. And the
and
thing
it
that
just
needs,
builds up and up and up. I couldn't believe, if someone had told me at the age of 40 that I couldn't fit in certain things in my life, I'd be like, and actually have no children, I'd be like, no, that's not true.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. Going to his films now, I'm going to just go over the ones these are the ones that he's listed as makeup, but I don't know anything about them because, again, like I said, it's hard to research them. So there's Day of the Night, or Deranged, which I actually want to watch when I read the synopsis of it, loosely based on Ed Gein. So I was like, okay. But I have to read a little bit further to make sure it's not a cannibalism one. And it's more to do with the psychological part of it. And then there's Martin.
Yes. Now, Martin's the one he credits for being his first proper
proper film and from
Yeah.
1978. If you have not seen or heard of Martin, it is such a fascinating movie. I learned of it from Mark Gatiss in his History of Horror documentary that he did. And it's Martin who believes that he is a vampire, but you don't really know if he is a vampire. It's possibly just psychosis.
Yeah.
And he gets staked anyway.
Yeah. And Tom also did stunts in that, didn't he? He wasn't just makeup. I think he did stunts in that one. Because there was one scene with some sort of...
Potentially.
I'm sure I saw on one of the many, many YouTube videos I've watched this last week about him. He did one stunt because the stunt guy wouldn't do it or let it down or something, so he had to pull the stunt out of the bag, but he's not credited as doing it.
If he did, then that'll explain one of my facts I know of Dawn of the Dead. So that sounds about right. But Martin is fascinating. It's basic makeup. It's a lot of blood. It's because the staking part is literally going. It's smoke and mirrors, which is what his book is called, Smoke and Mirrors. Yeah. It is literally going in at the side with blood. It's the, like when I say basic of makeups, it is the basics. But this is the starting point of where his mind starts to, oh, I did it this way this time. How could I elevate it?
Yeah.
You can see,
like when... It's all right. He talks a lot about how that went wrong, you know, the staking.
Yeah.
How the squib exploded too vigorously and hit the ceiling.
It went everywhere. It went all the way up. That was, yes, we must have watched the same thing. It went all the way up the wall, and he was like, that's not how a chest would explode. It's like, because when we were talking earlier about the Vietnam War, and he worked his way around anatomy because of the photographs he was taking. It is almost like it became like a Dexter, the blood splatter and everything. Like he understood it. It's amazing that he could put something so horrific into practicality to make him better. I don't know if I'm using the right words to say what I want to say.
I'd say so. I mean, it's like it was therapeutic to him. I mean, sort of teetering on that PTSD kind of side of stuff. There's a bunch of stories in his book that basically the chapter's called I Died 5 Times.
He talks about that in... He talked about that with Michael and Jess, where he said, I've died nearly 5 times. I am here for a reason. Yeah.
And what his body does, and in every instant that he's come close to dying, he blacks out. He doesn't, just as it's about to happen, he blacks out. And then he wakes up. And he said, every time, it's like my body just does this thing where it preserves itself, so I don't see the end coming. And it just goes, and I go.
Go and have a look at the photograph of him on his 70th birthday. The man is fucking built.
Yeah, it's huge.
He's fucking huge. He is huge. He really looks after himself.
But he was saying that he had a car crash. He was in his car driving along, and he fell asleep at the wheel.
Jesus.
And he woke up just as he was about to hit a pole. He managed to swerve, but the pole hit the back end of the car, shot the car doors open, threw all of his stuff out the car doors, and he just continued to spin down the road. It was like 5 a.m. in the morning. And he blacked out. He didn't know it. He blacked out. When he came to, he had to run up and down the road, getting all of his stuff back into his car, and he duct taped the door back together so it wouldn't open again. He said, I shook it off and I didn't fall asleep again after that, he said. And then...
No, I bet.
The other time was, in his younger years, he was an avid rock climber. So he used to go cliff face rock climbing. And the way he'd do it was he'd be attached, like they'd all be attached via, like, you know, the crotch harness things, where they wear the crotch harness and then they're connected to the person above them by carabiners and all that sort of stuff. And he was on his line, he was in charge of banging in the pegs into the cliff.
Right.
And he said, I wasn't sure if I didn't bang it in properly or it just cracked. He said, I don't remember, but I went to go up and I blacked out. and I woke up and I was dangling above a bunch of spiky rocks, and I had the 2 other people holding on for dear life, keeping my body weight up because I'd just gone. So again, survived.
So his other films I've got is The Prowler,
which is having a resurgence.
Yes, that's what I've heard, and The Burning.
My first ever horror movie I ever saw.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's got the guy who, if you watch Short Circuit, you've got the actor who played the Indian, the Indian guy that's.
Vaguely. It's been like, decades since I've seen that.
I only found out, I want to say about 10 years ago, that he isn't Indian. He's actually American. And I always thought he was really Indian. It was a case of like, yeah.
Hank Azario?
That was the guy that did the voice for Apu, wasn't it? You know? No, this.
Imagine, I'm just making names up now.
The guy that was in Short Circuit was actually in The Burning. And he got to kill him off in The Burning. But yeah, that was a shocker when I found out he wasn't Indian, and it was like that he'd been, I hate the term, but brown-washed.
Yeah.
And I was kind of disappointed after that. I was like, oh, I don't really want to watch that film again.
I've been duped.
Yeah, but yeah, The Burning is a very good, but it came out the same time. I think it was 82 that came out, so it was roughly around the same time as all the camp movies. Like me watching Sleepaway Camp again the other day, and then you've got all the Friday the 13th movies.
Isn't it absolutely amazing? Like the best.
It's her face at the end. What is that though?
It's demonic. It's oh, do you know what? It's a question that always, and I'm going to ask the question because I'm going to a whole sleepaway camp thing the day before I do a 24-hour live stream.
Crazy lady.
Because I'm not mad enough. But
is Felicia Rose there?
But yeah. No, I don't. If she is, I will shit my pants because the woman is just, she's flawless to look at. But yeah, it's almost like it's demonic-y. Like it's supposed to be like you just don't fucking know and don't fucking ask.
I want to know why she was pulling that face.
It's been so many years now. Do you know what? I could do a whole episode on Sleepaway Camp just because of how amazing the movie is. The brilliance of the aunt, love that woman. The creep factor of the chef, like major, inappropriate behavior.
The 40-year-old girl that bullies her, that one as well. I was like, she's 40. She's clearly 40.
The best kill scene of all time, curling iron.
No, I think it's left to the imagination where she put that curling iron.
Oh, she put that where you think it went. Of course she did. And she opened the tongs up.
Yeah.
Sleepaway Camp, really good. But it leads us lovely into one of the greatest movies, in my opinion, ever made, even though I learned one fact today that I never knew, and I have seen this film hundreds, if not thousands of times, is Dawn of the Dead. I did not know Dario Argento did the music. I've got the fucking poster right there. It says on it, music done by Dario Argento. And I did not know that until I watched the making of today.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck's he doing there? Because I had to watch him because you didn't speak English.
No, I still can't believe I accidentally met him. And I still don't know why or how, or he was, I knew he was at the convention, but I just didn't know what he looked like. I'd never seen him interviewed.
Up until today, I wouldn't have known. The only reason I knew it was him is because he didn't speak English.
And he came to the stall. He was having a walk around the convention, and this was Sheffield HorrorCon years and years ago. And he was talking through a translator to us about all the stuff on the stall. And I just thought he would, I don't know, you get so many people from different walks of life come to these shows. It didn't register. Mm-hmm. It just didn't register. And then because we always back onto the where they do the talks, they have like a curtain, and all the talks are behind where my stand usually is. So it wasn't until I heard the translator talking on on the big on
You
the
did
big
one of
mic. I
those
was like,
oh my God moments. I can't believe
So-
that.
stuck my head through the curtain and I'm looking and I went, fucking hell. I went, shit me, that's Dario Argento. It's Dario Argento. And I was like, wow, I blew that opportunity massively. You know,
But
he
you
was like-
didn't though, because you have that memory of going, oh shit.
Well, it beats the one that Rob has. I think I might have said this one, but I'm not entirely sure. Mark Shepherd Crowley from Supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
He's
You've
come
not
to
told
the,
this one.
he's come to the stand quite a few times because he does Telford Wales
Mhm.
Comic Con quite a lot. And I was off getting a photo with, I think it was maybe with Nathan at the one just
Right.
gone. And he came up to Rob and he went, have you got any pops of me? And Rob being Rob, he's not watched Supernatural. He doesn't know. He's not even seen the X-Files episode with him in it. And he went, I don't know, who are you? And he went, oh, you don't know who I am? He was like, no, I ain't got a fucking clue who you are.
Good love,
And-
Rob.
And obviously Mark Shepherd found that highly amusing and he burst out laughing. And,
Oh, I'm
and,
pleased.
and he was just like, well, he's got a reputation for being a bit of an arsehole as well.
I've
So
heard.
I just thought that he couldn't have met a nicer arsehole. So the pair of them must have a good time. He went, oh, I played Crowley in Supernatural. Rob went, don't know, mate, never seen it.
Oh, I love Rob. Love that response.
So yeah, honestly, he's done that on a few occasions. Like when I met
What a way to humble a person.
oh God, when I met
Let them meet Rob.
Heath Coogan from Adventures in Babysitting, that played Brad. When I met him, I was, because that film meant so much to me, and I was like a little bit starstruck. It doesn't happen often, but it did with him. And he turned around and he started talking to Rob. Rob went, I ain't got a clue who you are. Oh, mate, I was born in 1989. I've never seen your film. And I was just like, his granddad was Uncle Fester. You know, let's just be respectful to this man, please.
Wow, Rob.
But yeah,
I love that,
it
though.
was,
It is a
don't
way to
care.
humble a person. Just put them in front of Rob because he'll humble them.
too right. He don't know who anyone is yet. He does. Like
I
if you were
love
to
it.
say to him, you know that film he was in, that one, oh, vaguely. So he does have a rough idea. But
Well, Dawn of the Dead,
yes.
the makeup process. So I want to make this very clear. George Romero
Mhm.
directed this movie. Tom Savini makes it.
Yeah.
And when I mean make it, I mean if George said that needs going there, Tom did it. Tom, we need a stuntman because we've not hired a stunt team at all. Tom did it.
Yep.
That's why I think George didn't hire a stunt coordinator for this movie because he'd already done a stunt for him in Martin. That must have been where it came from. So Tom did everything. On top of, now if you've seen the movie, you've seen how many zombies are in there. He did every single one of their makeup along with, I mean, he had a team, don't get us wrong, he did have a
I think
team.
there was only 6 of them, wasn't there? There wasn't that many.
But it was only him and Tasso who did the actual makeup because they had a system and it was 2 to 3 hours and they were literally, you know, makeupy, next. Makeupy, next. And this is where the look of a zombie came from. This is the first time. I mean, you got them in Night of the Living Dead. But it's they're very much head down zombies, arm out, like
grey colour painted and their necks missing, you know.
Well, this is where he got the idea for the colouring.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what to do with the colouring of the face. And Night of the Living Dead is grey. It's black and grey. So he went with a black and grey look. And it didn't really work out that way because it showed up as blue. It showed up as green. It showed up as pink in some occasions. It had such weird colourings to it. But for some fucking reason, it actually worked. And you know what? I was watching the making of Dawn of the Dead today, and every single one of them extras, and they had like a head zombie, they had the nurse zombie, they had this. Do you know what I mean? Everyone had a role. Every person was made to feel not an extra, but you were a cast member.
Yeah.
It honestly sounded like such a lovely place to work for. like to be in, because not one person had a bad experience, had a bad story. They were all treated as equal. They all ate at the same table. They all went out together. There was a funny stories of around the town of where they filmed that they would just go off in their zombie makeup and stay in it all night, do their shopping, go out drinking, go to a restaurant, and they would be completely and utterly like blasé about it. But this is where everything that he learned from Martin got put into here, and then it actually evolves. And this is just my eye, it evolves from here, from Martin to Dawn of the Dead, from Dawn of the Dead to Friday the 13th, and you can see the techniques. Think of the everything to do with the neck. There's a lot of things to do with the neck, especially when it comes to Friday the 13th. It is completely and utterly perfected at that point. He wanted to get, he was so adamant about the weapons that they used.
Yeah.
He had to know each precision to where, and it had to be the real weapon. It couldn't be something that was plastic, something that was rubber. It had to be the actual weapon. Then he would change it in scenes.
He'd put the cutouts in the weapons so that he could gauge how it would sit on the throat, to how he could create the cut mark on the throat or head, I mean, that's some fastidious, some real, like,
it's detail.
OCD,
it's so much massively, but that takes him into Friday the 13th, which we're not going to cover a lot today because we have so much we want to cover on it. But it goes massively into that because every single kill in there isn't something to do with the neck. Yeah. Apart from one in the face, it's everything's to do with the neck, because it's almost like he's taken what he's learned from here. It's like what he took from Martin, he learned and put it into Dawn of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead into Friday the 13th. What I found interesting was Ken Forge is the loveliest person. I could listen to that man talk forever, but he got very upset when he was talking about the scene with the kids and he had to shoot the kids. What upset him was not him shooting kids, is that's Tom's niece and nephew. And he said it was like shooting family.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
He got very upset. That's Tom's niece and nephew who played the two kids, the two zombie kids, and he's so gentle with them. Like these, like... Let's be honest, you got some raging zombie kids around, you're just going to boot them, aren't you? Like, just get them away. He literally, like, picked them up and gently put them onto the couch. Like, if you watch that scene back, he is so careful with these kids because to him, they were glass.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to hurt them. He didn't want to, like, he didn't want to upset Tom. But Tom talked in the making of it about the sleeping bag. He used to have a sleeping bag strapped to his back. And that's how, because when I say he did everything, I mean, he literally did everything in this movie. He is credited as stuntman, makeup artist, actor. Him and Tasso, the other guy who was with him, that's actually a real Hells Angels group, by the way. That's the Pagans. They're a real group.
Yeah.
It's only him and Tasso who were the two actors who end up getting killed. It's him and his makeup artist, because they were going, oh, well, we need someone to kind of like steer these people, like, because they were really good at delivering lines, but we need someone to steer them. And Tom was like, well, I'll fucking do it. I'm acting, I'm getting on there. And he dragged Tasso into it.
Isn't that when he went on to do the Night Riders not long after that one? Yeah. Yeah. Because the bike in the Night Riders was the one that's parked outside of his house that Jess and Mike see, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's an exact replica." He's like, "Yeah, it's exactly a replica of my bike I had in Night Riders."
That's right. But he was like, "No, I'll do it. I'm acting." But he was just like, "And Tasso will do it as well. Well, we're gonna act. Like, why not? Let's add another thing to this movie." But he used to walk around with a sleeping bag on his back, so anytime he got a chance, he just go to sleep. He slept there constantly. He didn't move.
Well, he was quite lucky because when he finally left the army, I think he had to do a 6 months to a year back here before he could officially get out. And in doing so, he was given something called a GI Bill, I think it was called, which gave him the ability to go to further education.
Right.
So he chose to go to what is now known as Carnegie Mellon, which is the most prestigious theatre school in the whole of America. So he says. So he went to them, with a portfolio of the stuff he'd done. He'd been acting in so many things until that point. He was in like a theatre troupe that was local, and they did everything and anything. He did the makeups. He did one thing he said about the makeups he used to do for the theatre shows was he'd do them mirror real. He wouldn't do them stage accurate. It was mirror accurate. He had to know they were right.
Yeah.
So it was one of probably the best get-ups for a theatre company looking back.
Having Tom.
Yeah, and he went into Carnegie Mellon, and Carnegie Mellon accepted him on his GI free bill. But once they started to see his portfolio work, he got a teaching spot. He also got a full scholarship for the rest of the time there. They just invited him to become a teacher out of nowhere because they saw his portfolio.
Why not? Why not? Why the fuck not? But yeah, he perfected the blood pump on Dawn of the Dead to where he's not changed much of it since. But yeah, he perfected that there, because then he moves on to Friday the 13th, where it gets used quite a bit.
Yeah, he does go on. There is one video I watched where he was trying to show what it would look like if you got shot. Not just 2 squibs or 3 squibs going off on the front of you. He showed like the process he uses for the little squibs, which are the little tap plates with the blood pack on the front. He actually made a giant one and put it on the back of his then wife, which I want to say this might have been late 80s, early 90s. That's when it looked like. And he put it on the back of his wife she had a white shirt on, and he placed it on her back, and he put a few squibs on the front. And he wanted to know what it would look like if it went off behind her up the wall, if it made the right splat pattern for what would happen if you got shot through, like completely through. And he set it off, and she was covered. And I mean, it went off up the wall. He was really happy with it, but it was dripping down her legs. It was all over the floor. It was up her back. It blew a hole in her shirt. She was all right. She hadn't burnt herself, but like he was like, "Are you okay?" She was like, "Yeah, it just feels really strange." She said everything's like tingly. But yeah, it's how he used to test out all of his little animatronics and pyrotechnics and
on
whatever you want to call that. Just on. Well, he has been married. I think he's on his 4th wife now. So
and she's
but she was his father's carer, I think, this one.
All right.
Yeah, and he met her because his dad said, "You've got to marry this girl. She's good. She's a good one. She's a keeper.
You can have her."
Yeah.
So shall we end it now?
We can.
Ready to go into Friday the 13th.
Because I feel like I am going to go on a full-on tirade about all of that stuff if I don't be quiet. So
all I've got on Friday the 13th so far, because it's, again, watching making of documentaries of Friday the 13th, you are watching the making of the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas Dawn of the Dead, it's so heavily focused on Tom because, again, Tom did everything, that it is so heavily focused on what he does. This, not so much. This is about the actors and who they got and how they got them. And it wasn't, all I got was the kills on there. So it just gives us a bit more time to dig a little bit deeper into Friday the 13th and go beyond that.
Creep Show.
Dusk Till
Dawn. Walking Dead, because I think he's uncredited on The Walking Dead, but he did a lot with Greg for The Walking Dead, on the evolution of some of the zombies for that. Also, there's a long list. We can still go back and talk about like the burning. We can still go back and talk about all the Land of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, every dead, the deads,
and more deads. Just wanted to lay the land.
Yeah.
Of Tom Savini. And I feel like I've done that, or we've done that.
Even though we've had an odd tangent, it's just, yeah.
Well, what's not our podcast if we are not tangenting?
I do honestly think that books to recommend so far are, if you are into special effects makeup but you haven't heard of it, go get Grand Illusions 1 and 2. I've got it, it's just there, you can't really see it, it's behind the photo of Tom. Because yes, I have met Tom. Surprise, isn't it? It's great.
Oh.
It's a surprise. It was the only time I've ever been so starstruck. I didn't understand words. I couldn't form words. I stood there and went at him, and never been so embarrassed in my entire life. Yeah. Walked off after making weird monkey duck noises at him. So
amazing.
Yeah, and also his well, I think it's a biography because I think it's him and a ghostwriter that write the whole thing, and it's just called Savini. Also his autobiographical movie that came out, Smoke and Mirrors. There's another one that they did, but it was 80s based, and for the love of God, it's escaped me. It's something like the Savini story or something like that.
Yeah, I saw it today. It's actually in 2 parts, I think. It's a very expensive film. But
Yes.
It has obviously some of the greatest images when it comes down to monster makeup in there, because it's not just his work, it was others. So we will pick him back up in a week or so, because next week we're going to we're going to be joined. We're going to be
it's going to be cold. It's going to be very cold.
Yes, thank you, Dan. It is. It's going to be bloody freezing, just like what the UK is right now. We're going down the Carpenter route.
It's not knifey, stabby man.
It's the other one that everyone seems to enjoy. The Thing. We're going to be doing The Thing, and we will be joined that week by a very, very special guest. So you will have to look out for our posters to find out who said special guest is, because I'm not telling you tonight. It's a secret.
And this person knows everything there is to know about it, and will shoot you down.
When you see, yeah, because he does he has done to us twice now.
In person.
I got it through a message. Dan got it in person. But he got the message across, though. He made sure that message was made. But no,
we heard it and we said, all right, you come on then.
Yeah, come on. And I've got a feeling we are going to be put well and truly in our place. So you will have to tune in next week to watch that.
Yep.
We are available on iTunes and Spotify, or anywhere else that you find your podcast from. It's simply just searching Monsters Up North.
That's the one.
I have been to work for 10 hours today. I'm very tired. I apologize in advance.
It's Monsters at Night. Monsters at Night.
It really is, isn't it? Imagine if we did this during the day, fresh as a daisy. We'd be like fucking on fire. Like, yeah, point after point after point.
Oh,
it's never gonna fucking happen.
But yeah. Day of the Dead, Dan of the Dead.
Sam of the Dead.
Dan and Sam of the Dead. Yeah.
Oh, it really works. Our names do like kind of work when it comes to like rhyme and stuff. We can get away with it. Well, you can see us on YouTube at 7:00 every Monday. Please like, share, and subscribe. All of our details are down below, right there, right down there. Anything else that I need to cover? Anything else? I can't think. Oh yeah, go and listen to our other episodes.
Yeah, that stuff.
Yeah.
They're good. If I don't say so myself, you know.
Yeah, go and listen to our other episodes. I'm sure you'll get an absolute kick of reliving the great episode that was The Invisible Man, that was Bride of Frankenstein, Pennywise, Jigsaw.
Honestly, I think we're on episode 14 as I speak. This is episode 14. And I think we've done quite well to get this far. So we're going to keep going. So sorry about it.
And thank you for joining us.
Yeah. And that's my outro. Sorry about it.
But yes, join us next week, and thank you everyone for watching, and remember, stay nerdy everyone. Bye bye.